Today, I'll be reviewing the new Antec Flux M micro ATX case. Now, if you have been shopping around for a new upgrade or just a new build in general for the last few months or so, you may have already seen the Phanteks XT-M3 and XT-V3 as they are very similar. Now, I have not officially reviewed the XT-M3 or V3, but I did do a couple builds and posted them on my socials. In fact, I have a custom water-cooled time-lapse video for the M3 on this channel, so I'm quite familiar with it. But as I'm going through the coverage for the Flux M in this video, do expect a comparison between these two brands. So let's take a look. Starting with some surface details, the Flux M only comes in black, so that's already one less option against Phanteks, whereas the XT-M3 and V3 both come in black and white. Now, just to clarify, V3 has a front glass panel, whereas the M3 is mesh, so the M3 is going to be the more direct competition to the Flux M. As for the price, Flux M is about $75 whereas the Phanteks models are around 70, with the black M3 currently at 60. Okay, so black mesh versus black mesh, $15 difference. So what do you get for $15 more and what don't you get? Now, dimensions. The Flux M is only just slightly bigger than the Phanteks models by just a few millimeters in all directions, but shorter in height. Nothing too crazy. What will matter more is what you're able to put inside the cases, which I'll get to. Flux M has a screwless side glass panel which makes it easier to remove and put back. XT-M3 requires you to take off the top panel and undo the screw that secures the glass panel, so it's an extra step but also more secure. Flux M also does not have a removable top panel like Phanteks, only a magnetic dust filter, and on this top side there is a removable cover for access to the power supply as well as the hardware box. On the front is where your I/O will be. Power and reset button, 3.5 audio jack, USB-A 3.0, and USB-C. The front panel comes off with the tug which reveals two of the included fans, and the retention clips for the front panel I find a bit weak, and a piece of it did break off in my unit. In comparison, the clips on the XT-M3 are much more solid and thicker. The right side panel has ventilation for the PSU in the front corner, and it is secured via two screws. There is no magnetic dust filter for that PSU ventilation, however, which some people might want. Rear side, we can see single 120 fan for both competitors, but the XT-M3 provides 4 PCIe slots, whereas the Flux M will give you 5. The bottom side will give you a magnetic dust filter as well, just like the top panel. Now back in the main chamber, Antec gives you a total of 6 fans, whereas Phanteks will only give you 3. So right off the bat, I would say this is kind of where that $15 difference is going to land for the most part. But this is where it's a bit OCD for me. I think it's fine that they are providing more fans, and I think that some people may not care about the aesthetics of their system. They don't want to spend more money buying more fans to add to the system, they just want to plug in and go. That's okay. But for me, it does bother me, and I think having 3 RGB fans and then 3 non-RGB fans at the bottom, my take is that they should either make all 6 fans black, especially if they don't have RGB reverse fans available, or just provide the 3 RGB fans only. It'll save some cost and perhaps allow price matching down with Phanteks. And also my opinion here, I think if the bottom 3 fans were flipped on its back, I know generally speaking the backside of a fan is less attractive, and that's why we have reverse blade fans. If they have it flipped on its back and kept all the models the same, it's still better looking than having 3 completely different modeled fans. There is a GPU support bracket here that's built into the cover. Now, since I don't have every GPU out there to test, keep in mind this support bracket is kind of short, so there might be some GPUs where it may not reach, but it did work with this 5090 gaming trio. And the main tray does not support back-connect motherboards, but the Phanteks model does. Okay, in 2025, yes, there are still fewer back-connect motherboards than regular motherboards, but as case makers, I think they should still keep up with these standards. And even though it's not a deal breaker since there are more regular motherboards, it's still behind. And especially if customers have to pay $15 more than the Phanteks option. On the backside, there is a detachable storage tray for up to 2 2.5-inch SSDs or 2 3.5-inch hard drives. When you install the storage tray back in, make sure the drives are on the inside like this. Power supply clearance takes an ATX format of up to 160 millimeters, and you do also have a removable cover that helps tuck the cables in place. CPU air cooler clearances go up to 175 millimeters, which will fit something like a Noctua NHD15, which is one of the biggest air coolers on the market. GPU clearance is 405mm, which will fit any of the big current RTX 5090 cards like this gaming trio. Now I know there's a bigger card that comes to mind, and that's the Nexus 5080, which, if I'm not mistaken, that is the largest GPU by sheer physical size. And I checked the dimensions on that, and I know it will fit in this case. However, based on the measurements, you would have to either replace the bottom standard fans with slim fans, like perhaps the Nexus 15mm ones would be a good option, or just not use any fans at all at the bottom. But with big cards, it will also depend on which slot your PCIe starts on your board. If it starts lower on the second, you will have to make those bottom fan adjustments. If it's higher up on the first slot, you will have more clearance without having to make adjustments. Another issue I noticed about the case is that the clearance cutout for inserting the GPU should be bigger. Testing with the MSI B860M Mortar Wi-Fi here, I had to somehow force and wiggle the GPU's I/O bracket into place, as it does kind of scrape against the motherboard's capacitor here. And you're also going to run into the same blocking issue when taking your GPU out. When it comes to fans, this case can only do 120 variants, so triple 120s in the top, doubles in the front, single in the rear, and triples on the bottom. Pretty easy. As for radiators, the top panel can do a 360, but only from certain brands. For example, EK and Hardware Labs typically run a bit wider, so they will not work. But some smaller size 360s from Corsair or BitsPower rats will work. As for thickness clearance, I would try to keep your radiator and fan stack under 70mm total on top before you run into your RAM. If you're using low profile memory, you might be able to get away with going over 70mm. The bottom panel does have a wider clearance, so it will fit larger rats like EK and Hardware Labs. The front panel can also fit the same wide brands with a 240 size rad, but just keep in mind that stacking more on your front panel will reduce your GPU length clearance as well as what you can fit on the bottom and top panels, so you want to balance that out with your own hardware selection. The rear can do a single 120, and it can just barely fit a wide rad from EK. Anything wider than this would not work. When it comes to AIOs, I think most people will want to do a 360 mounted up on the top, and most AIO coolers will have a pretty standard size radiator, so they should all be fine. As for my build, I'm using MSI's B860M Mortar Wi-Fi and an RTX 5090 gaming trio, as they did provide the hardware. Now, I'm personally not an RGB guy, and since Antec gave a mix of different fan models, I'm going to replace them all with Nexus to align the aesthetics and color theme. I also haven't done a brown build in a long time, so I wanted to reconnect on it. Additionally, Nexus did send over their latest Gen 2 NHD15 for me to test in reviews like this. And this is honestly one of the biggest and best air coolers you can get on the market, and I think it fits pretty well here while hiding the green accents on this motherboard. Now, normally I would have a liquid cooled build as the final, but because I had recently done a black XT-M3 literally with the same motherboard, I wanted to avoid something that would have been too similar. Okay, so what do I think about the Flux M in conclusion? Well, for one, I think the price can be lowered by cutting out 3 of the fans, whether it's 3 of the black ones or 3 of the RGB ones. Just keep 1 of the sets. But on Fantech's side, XT-M3 comes with 3 M25 RGB Gen 1 fans, which are now discontinued. So if you wanted to buy these 3 more fans to match, the closest you can get is their latest M25 Gen 2, which comes in at around $37 for a triple pack, which then puts the Fantech's XT-M3 at a higher price point if we're talking about matching 6 fans with Antec. But then again, you can also fill it with cheaper fans out there. Now, aesthetics is important to me, so I personally would go as far as spending more money to replace all of the Gen 1 fans in the Fantech's case with Gen 2, but that's just me. And also, Fantech's would also get another point for me for having back connect motherboard support, as they are more up to date. I also don't use any storage drives, as I prefer to use all M.2s only, so the drive trays in either cases don't matter to me, as I would just take those out to reduce weight and make more space. If you're someone who wants to use more drives, then the Flux M would provide 1 extra spot over the XT-M3. The build quality on the XT-M3 is slightly better, and it is especially noticeable to me when it came to the clips on the front panel. XT-M3 also has white options along with their glass front V3 models, whereas Antec just has the Flux M in 1 color, so that's also another win for Fantech's. All the other features between the 2 cases are pretty close in my opinion, and I think the XT-M3 would be my personal pick over the Flux M based on what I covered and also having the extensive hands-on experience with both brands.